All right, let's jump right in. Today's explainer is diving straight into a fascinating source text called Echoes and Insights, Two Paths of Political Identity. We're going to follow its exact roadmap to see how it claims our political minds are built from the absolute ground up. But first, think about this for a second. Why do you vote the way you do? Seriously, have you ever stopped to trace where your very first political alliances actually came from? The text we're looking at today lays out a really specific, almost mechanical framework for how this happens, and it's pretty wild to apply to our own lives.
Let's hit the first concept. Section 1, the initial political lean. Let's see what the source material calls our universal starting line.
According to the text, everyone, literally everyone, leans into some sort of political alliance early on. And it doesn't just drop out of the sky. The text identifies three major triggers for this very first lean. It's usually driven by your family's influence, the close associates and friends you hang out with, or just the random life circumstances you're facing right as you start to mature.
Now here's the kicker. The text emphasizes that when we make this very first choice, we're basically flying blind. We start with incredibly minimal knowledge. Actually, the text basically implies we know next to nothing at that stage. We've barely even explored the subject of politics at all. And because of this total lack of experience, the source points out that a lot of people unknowingly end up picking the wrong political party for themselves right out of the gate.
All right, moving to Section 2, the fork in the road. This is where the text says our natural personalities hijack those initial circumstances.
The source material sets up this brilliant scenario. Imagine two people. They have the exact same initial political idea. Whether that idea is factually right or wrong doesn't even matter yet. What happens next depends entirely on who they are as individuals. Two different paths, driven by two totally different personalities.
Up first, the text introduces us to Dilon, representing what it calls the Bayya archetype. Dilon is defined as a highly egocentric individual. His absolute core drive, he just loves to always be correct. Keep that specific trait locked in your mind, because the text shows it completely dictates his entire reality. Then, in stark contrast, the source presents Akash. Akash is wired totally differently. He's a person who actually likes to correct his own ideas. The text describes him as someone who is always eager to explore brand new concepts and willingly put his own beliefs to the test.
So, let's follow Dilon's route first. Path 1, the ego trap.
Because Dilon's main goal is just to feel right all the time, his behavior, according to the text, gets super predictable. He essentially builds an echo chamber. He exclusively follows political personalities that match his exact views. He only watches news channels that tell him what he already believes. He only makes friends with folks who share his exact ideas, and he actively rejects any opposing viewpoints he hears. Basically, the text says he just wants to entertain his own mind without ever challenging it.
And the text highlights a brutal consequence to this trap. Rational and analytical thinking, it just vanishes. Poof. Because his entire environment perfectly supports his bias, the source material notes that he wouldn't even be able to answer a basic textbook question about politics. He just blindly holds the alliance. He's created such a tight little bubble that he genuinely has no clue he's sometimes wrong.
Let's pivot. Path 2, the explorer. Let's see how the text maps out Akash's journey from that exact same starting line.
The text shows Akash actively doing the exact opposite. He doesn't just pick a side, he studies different political parties. He goes out of his way to associate with people who hold opposing viewpoints, just to discuss and learn from them. He intentionally watches news channels that do not support his own party. The source says his ultimate goal is to grasp good ideas from everyone, totally regardless of their political brand.
And what's the payoff? Well, the text states that by constantly exploring these different angles, Akash successfully builds an understanding of much broader political problems. He starts seeing the nuances of the entire landscape, not just one tiny corner of it.
Which brings us to the end of the line. Section 3, the final destinations. Where does the source material leave these two characters?
The text presents a really stark ultimate contrast here. On one side, we have Dilon. The source literally describes him as being deep in a pit of his own ideas, a pit so deep that no one can pull him out. On the other side, we have Akash, who, through all his exploring, achieves the ability to understand politics completely without bias.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question directly inspired by the text we just explored. Which path are you currently walking? Seriously, take a hard look at your own daily habits, your media diet, and your friend groups. Are you behaving like Dilon, entertaining your mind and digging a deeper pit?
Or are you acting like Akash, actively seeking out opposing views to build a truly unbiased understanding? The path you choose might just dictate the reality you live in.